Welcome everyone to episode 62 of Let's Talk Wrestling. It is the peak of unique Jordan Megas. We are back and I have my camera set up. So if you'll give me just one moment, we are about to go live on Facebook. So if you are listening to this, there's also a video of me recording this live on Facebook on the Let's Talk Wrestling Facebook page. You can go to that. You can also join the closed group. Just submit an application and I will add you. But I'm about to start the live video right now, so let's get it done. And we are now live. Welcome everybody. This is Let's Talk Wrestling live on Facebook. I am so happy to finally get this done. I didn't think I'd be able to actually bring myself to do this, but I'm happy to say that we are here, we are live, and Let's Talk Wrestling should be here to stay. I'm very happy to announce that. I announced last week that we would start live on Facebook, and starting tonight, we will have Let's Talk Wrestling live every single week on Facebook until further notice, and we will also have the audio edition, which you can still listen to on Audible, iTunes, and YouTube, available, not on Audible, on Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube. Audible is actually our great sponsor, a sponsor of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast, allowing you to try the amazing audiobook service free for 30 days. All you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/Let's Talk Wrestling. You get 30 days, you get a free audiobook download, any book you choose. Over 180,000 titles to choose from. What could go wrong with that? And if you decide it's not for you, you can cancel at any time, even on the 29th day. You get to keep the audiobook you download as part of your free trial, whether you stick with the service or not. So it's at no risk to you. So all you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/Let's Talk Wrestling. And now that being live, there's little room for error. There's only, that one take and that's it, which is very daunting, I guess you could say, for most shows. But we're going to do our best, and we're going to have this done in one take. So we'll go ahead and get started. We had the All Out pay-per-view, which took place in Chicago, Illinois for All Elite Wrestling this past Saturday in Chicago. The main event being Chris Jericho versus Hangman Page for the AEW World Championship. 3 notable matches that we had on here, or at least that I found, noteworthy. Actually, 4. The 4 being, of course, Pac and Kenny Omega. They noted that they wish their match was better. I thought it was good. Whatever we think they're going to have, they did deliver, but apparently in their minds, there was something more to be given to us with the talent in the ring. Now, that's on them if they want to say, they should have done a better job, and surely they will. I think this was the first time they've been in the ring together. I could be wrong about that, but they looked really good, looked really solid. I enjoyed the match thoroughly, and I enjoyed seeing Pac get the win here. I know Kenny Omega, he's gotten 1 win, I believe, in All Elite so far. And I know this because they have a records tab next to their nameplate whenever that lower third pops up at the bottom of the screen. It shows their name, it shows their singles record, and their overall record, which is a very interesting touch. Now Pac's record reads 1-0, and I think Kenny Omega's reads like 1-2 or 0-2. I'm not sure if he's gotten a win yet. I can't exactly remember because, sadly, I didn't get a chance to read or watch Fyter Fest. I didn't watch all of Fight for the Fallen. Of course, Fyter Fest, the only thing I saw with that was the chair shot from Shawn Spears to Cody, and that's actually the match we're going to talk about next. It was Shawn Spears versus Cody. Shawn, of course, being the former Tye Dillinger. He is now in All Elite Wrestling, now also under the tutelage of Tully Blanchard, the former 4 Horsemen member, and, of course, pro wrestling legend, backing up Shawn Spears to try and get inside the mind of Cody. Now, I liked the entrance Cody had. You know, he had this big, or not this big, this Star Trek group assembly with Diamond Dallas Page, his wife Brandy, and MJF, who is, you know, someone who no one would expect him to be friends with anybody. But when we saw MJF run out to the ring like he did during that chair shot, you know, there's no denying, you know, he belongs in that spot with as Cody's friend. So MJF accompanied Cody to the ring, which was very nice. He had Pyro go off, which actually scared Cody's dog Pharaoh, and apparently that made some waves backstage because they also had a live horse, which was used for Adam Page's entrance. So if it scared the dog, imagine what it could do to the horse. So they took some extra precautions to make sure that that didn't happen again. But now it was Cody versus Shawn Spears. It was pretty good. You know, I enjoyed it. I can't say, you know, it was a 5-star match, but I can say it impressed me. You know, we saw Ty Dillinger in WWE performing some good matches to put over talent that would arrive in NXT. And he had a few good matches on SmackDown whenever he was there. But whenever he left WWE and became Shawn Spears, he's turned it up, you know. He did really good in this role. He performed to, I don't even want to say the best of his abilities. He performed at a very high rate, better than anything we've seen in WWE. It wasn't the gimmick, it was the man. It was the wrestler known as Shawn Spears that we saw in the ring. And I think that's what we were missing in WWE, at least in his case. And that might be the case for a lot of superstars in WWE. They have great gimmicks, they have great looks, they have great talent, but it's not being utilized correctly. But you never know. But we had Cody getting the win over Shawn Spears here. Tully Blanchard, he eventually got, you know, booted from ringside. I believe MJF got booted from ringside. And then we saw the enforcer, Arn Anderson, who teamed up with Tully Blanchard in the 80s as the Brainbusters, come down to the ring while the referee wasn't looking and give Shawn Spears a spine buster. And that was a sight for sore eyes, because this man is in his upper 60s or early 70s. He's somewhere around that age period. And he's still able to pull off the best spine buster in the business, bar none. It's amazing to see. Some of these guys, you know, they'll become really slow, tired at like age 45 or 50, which is not, you know, too out there to conceive. But this man is way past that line, and he's doing, you know, he wasn't, you know, taking bumps or doing a full match, but he could still perform that spine buster like nobody else can. So props to Arn for, you know, staying timeless. We then had the AAA Tag Team title match. The Lucha Brothers, Rey Fenix and Pentagon, once again taking on the Young Bucks. Now, this was another Lucha Bros Young Bucks match. So, needless to say, it was quite enjoyable. And it was something that you expected them to do. I'm not going to say, you know, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. What I am saying is that it's definitely something we expected them to do. You know, they raised the bar for a ladder match. They had a great time in the ring. They had some awesome moments, including the time Pentagon, I guess he was about to grab the titles, but in an effort to stop him, one of the Young Bucks, I forgot if it was Nick or Matt, but one of them pulled off Pentagon's mask, and that dropped him to the floor. That's where I thought the match was over. But they ended up coming back, and the Lucha Brothers are still your AAA Tag Team Champions. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the AAA Tag Team titles once the AEW Tag Team title tournament begins soon in All Elite. I believe it starts on the first night of the television tapings. We then had the world title match. The first ever world champion was crowned, and his name was Chris Jericho, defeating Hangman Page by the work of the Judas Effect, which is his spinning back elbow finisher. I still think it's neat to tie his hit song with his character and tie it in with his finisher. There's just something about Chris Jericho. And he's our world champion now, and we saw a lot of rap for it from some people in the business. One of them in particular being Baron Corbin. We saw Baron Corbin say something along the lines of, people will hate on anything. They hate old guys getting talent or getting over younger talent in WWE, but if it's in a different company, then all of a sudden we're for it. There's multiple elements to pick here. You have, what he says to an extent is true. There are some superstars that, yes, they're older, and yes, they're going over the younger talent, and we boo them. Some of them doing the same exact thing, and we cheer them. My intake on this is that the difference is that with Chris Jericho, he's still performing at an elite rate. You know, he's not someone they're strolling down for pay-per-view buys. He's not someone they're strolling down just to say, hey, we had Chris Jericho in the ring this past weekend. You need to buy the pay-per-view or buy the replay. Chris Jericho, he's one of those superstars that, yes, he's been around for nearly 30 years, but he's still playing with the best of them. He's still wrestling like he was back in like 2005, 2006, 2008, back when he was, what we thought was going to be his best run, whenever he was doing the whole best in the world thing. And somehow he still evolves his character to stay relevant. He still performs at an elite level in the ring. That's the big difference. With Brock Lesnar, we know what we're going to get. We're going to get a handful of suplexes, an F5 or two, and he squashes another up-and-coming, top star. Sometimes there's like a case or two where we don't get that, but that usually comes either a low blow, another legend, or interference. And the only two men that I think of, the only man that's done that to beat Brock Lesnar fairly was Seth Rollins at SummerSlam 2019. At least since his 2012 return. And Goldberg fits in the legend category. So, I don't want to hear any rap for that. But Brock Lesnar is one of those, they're strolling him out, and we don't like seeing him as our world champion. Sure, bring him out every now and again for a match. We won't mind that. But I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody when I say we do mind whenever he is wrestling for the title, and then he wins the title, doesn't show up for a couple months, comes back for the next big pay-per-view, wins, then goes away again. There's an element to having a world championship seem rare whenever it's not on TV every single week. Now, granted, you do not need to have the world champion on every single week to make it that rare commodity. But you do not need it to be on there once every 3 months either. I think they're playing with the line of too scarce to too often. You got champions on every week, okay? So it's the world title, and it won't seem like much of a difference. But whenever you bring it to Brock Lesnar, dude's almost never there. He works maybe 30 dates a year. And this man is your world champion. Nobody likes that fact. The fact that he is our world champion. Or was. Whenever he holds the title, we don't like it. He's an example of when an old superstar comes down and beats the younger guys, we boo. The Undertaker, he's starting to get into that realm. But he's also fighting other older guys. He's fighting, Triple H. He fought Goldberg at Super Showdown. He didn't show up at WrestleMania. He tombstoned Elias, but it's not like he buried him in a squash match, like how The Rock did Eric Rowan at WrestleMania 32. There are elements to pick here, and I think the biggest one, like I said, was the consistency form of Chris Jericho being able to evolve on both a mental level, a visual level, and a physical level. He's still able to hang with the best of them. He's still among the cream of the crop. And that is probably what's going to make him timeless. What's going to make him the greatest superstar of all time. And it might be unarguable. Of course, to WWE fans, those that strictly watch WWE, and WWE is the only product that they expose themselves to. Of course, Jericho won't be the greatest. It will probably be Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, The Undertaker. Now, of course, my ballot has been for The Undertaker for time after time, consistently. However, I am starting to lean towards Chris Jericho just because of the efficiency. For, like I said, he debuted, 1990 in Mexico. Then he went to Japan. He went to ECW, WCW, WWE, and now he's in AEW. And he is one of the top performers at every single stage. In every company he's been in, he was among the best. And that's what's going to put him into ballot for me as the greatest of all time. The consistency. He's also, multiple time world champion in WWE, now AEW. He was the WCW champion in WWE after the whole alliance thing. He's also been, a top champion in other promotions. He was the IWGP Intercontinental Champion. He's a popular man who can maintain his charisma and can maintain his in-ring ability. That's what puts him over. And as far as Baron Corbin's argument goes, it's situational. It is case by case, I want to say. You have a guy who strolls out like Brock Lesnar. Strolls out very scarcely, but he's in the world title picture. He's literally squashing the top talent of today. Squashing Roman Reigns, squashing Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins. That's why we don't like him. But with Chris Jericho, he's not squashing anybody. He's still performing at their level, and he's beating them in a good, 25, 30-minute match. He's delivering. Chris Jericho is more consistent than those other old part-timers that we want to say are not doing the job or are taking spots from younger talent. AEW is not relying on older talent to bring in numbers. That's the difference. It's not the fact that we have an older superstar out there. It's the fact that WWE relies on their older stars. They feel that their current superstars cannot get over in their current system, so they have to bring out those that are already established legends to come out and not even pass the torch, to keep that fire burning, which is a big mistake. And with AEW, you got a legend or two in there, You got someone like Chris Jericho, you got Arn Anderson, and you're not going to see Arn Anderson on weekly television. I can almost guarantee that. Chris Jericho, he's one of those guys, he's a part of the roster. He's not an older guy. Granted, he is 49 years old, but he's not seen as just another older guy. He's still a top-tier talent. So, with that situation, Baron, I think you might want to pull back on your argument, dude. I'm sure he's probably doing this just to get some riffraff, get some heat. And, if it works, it works. Do what works. But speaking of the world champion, Chris Jericho, about a day or two after he won the title at All Out, the title was stolen from Jericho. Now, it wasn't like Jericho was walking around with it and someone mugged him and took the belt. Okay, Jericho, he got off a flight in, I think, Tennessee. I think Nashville, Tennessee, somewhere in there. Went to a Longhorn Steakhouse, he went to eat, realized he grabbed the wrong bag from the airport. And then we went back to try and give that bag to its rightful owner and get his bag. The bag was gone. So he filed a report with the Tennessee Police Department, and they found it. It's returned to him. It's just a funny situation, It's one of those humorous, I'm not going to say, comedy skits. It's not a skit. It actually happened. He actually filed a police report, and the police department did return the belt to him. But it's reminiscent of times where, fans would jump the barricade just to be in the ring to get their 15 seconds of fame. It's reminiscent of that, but it's not exactly like that, Someone did not intentionally steal the AEW World Heavyweight title. Someone found a bag that looked like theirs and grabbed it like nothing else and realized, holy crap, it's the wrong bag. There's a belt in here. This goes to a wrestler. And I'm sure they did not want to deal with the repercussions of that. But the belt was returned, and all is good and well in AEW right now as they prepare for their first show, which is, I believe, October 2nd, Wednesday, October 2nd, on TNT, I believe, starting at 8 o'clock Eastern, 8/7 Central. And I'm excited to see what they have in store for that first show. I know the main event is I think Cody and the Young Bucks, or Omega and the Young Bucks, versus Chris Jericho and two partners of his choosing. No idea who those guys are going to be now, because people thought it was going to be, Ortiz and Santana from the new LAX and Impact. But they debuted after the Lucha Brothers Young Bucks match at All Out. That may very well still happen, but I think they're saving those two spots for, big surprise debuts. The question is, who is it going to be? We don't know. But speaking of the war that's going to be going on between AEW and WWE, we know that one thing that some people have clamored for WWE superstars is off time. Superstars to be able to take vacations. And WWE is starting to give that. We know Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, they took a few days off. They went to the Chicago Bears opening NFL game against the Green Bay Packers. It was Becky Lynch's first game. I just saw the video on Twitter. It's not newsworthy. Oh my God, Becky Lynch went to her first game. The point of it being, WWE superstars are getting off time now. They're getting vacation time, which is nice to see. So they're not on the road every single day, get one day off, and then back on the road. I know Braun Strowman, I think, has the weekend off. He was given a couple days. He won't be at the live events, which, it's fine. Nobody's going to miss it. Nobody's going to miss it unless they actually go to the event in whatever state they are in. And we have NXT, which is a part of this whole Wednesday Night War thing. They'll be debuting on the USA Network 1 week from this Wednesday, which is the 18th. And it's a cluster of confusion. They made the move to counteract AEW's programming. So, same night of the week, same time slot, and now we have NXT versus AEW. But now for the first 2 weeks, they have it a very weird format. We know the first night it goes to the normal format where it's just, NXT's on the USA Network. The first night they do that is the first night AEW is going to be on, which, I don't know why you took NXT off of the WWE Network. I don't know why you feel the need to compete with him. Why you feel the need to compete with All Elite. If you're the number one company in the world, you do not need to compete with another company. They might just be an alternative. That doesn't mean they're going to steal your audience. But in an effort to do this, they are premiering NXT on the USA Network, and for the first 2 weeks, the 18th and the 25th, NXT will air live on the USA Network from 7 to 8, like the first hour, and then the second hour will be, streamed on the WWE Network. Sorry, I thought I heard something. But we have this situation where it's going to be on two different networks, and it's very confusing for some people. I think they had... It's like going from SmackDown to Talking Smack when they had that on. After the 2016 draft, SmackDown would get the 2-hour show, and then you would get that post show, which was on the network. But imagine if the part that was on the network was the second half of the show, which might be seen as an inconvenience to either people who don't have cable, like myself, or those that do not have the WWE Network. You only get half the show for these 2 weeks. And you may be able to adjust your situation for whatever. But that's the situation we're dealing with right now. I don't know if it's a good move, but it's the move that we're making. So hope for the best. But in an effort to, start swaying things their way in this war, WWE is starting to go back to some of their edgier programming. This week on Raw, they had 3 superstars. I know it was Bayley, I think Sasha Banks, and Ricochet, I'm pretty sure, were 3 superstars who got to cut promos with the bullet-style scripting. So they weren't given promos word for word to give out. They were given, bullet points. Here's what you need to talk about. Go. Which I think it worked out. I think it went very well for them. It worked. It was something that desperately WWE needs to do. And that's when you could say, the superstar is not going to make it, or the superstar is going to make it. Because if you allow them to say, let them have that creative freedom to an extent, they can get their personality out there. They can get their character out there to where it will be sink or swim. You either don't make it, you either can't come up with something and you don't get over and you stay in the shrubs, or you can have this big coming out promo. Because imagine if The Rock never got that time to cut his own promo. He asked for 30 seconds, I believe. Either 30 seconds or 3 minutes from someone in management to speak on Raw. And they gave it to him. Look what happened. Imagine if that never happened. If The Rock entered WWE today, he would not make it. Just because of the over-scripting of it. But we're seeing the opportunities increase for them now. We're seeing more people get opportunities to say, all right, here's what I can do, and I need only limited direction. I don't need to be, I don't need to have my hand held wherever I go. And it's a nice thing to see WWE starting to trust their superstars. And it's not necessarily trusting the superstars. We know it's a move to try to get the leg up on AEW. But if it creates a better product, I'm not going to complain, right? And we also have this whole mystery thing. One of the storylines in WWE right now is this whole mystery of, who attacked Roman Reigns. It was solved this past Tuesday, and the attacker was Rowan. There was a whole theory, that Buddy Murphy, he named Rowan. Daniel and Rowan went to force Buddy Murphy to say he lied. Then they said that this unknown guy, like he's not even a worker for WWE, was the guy that did it. Someone that genuinely looked like Rowan. Sorry, I'm trying to hold back yawns, and it's not working. But we also have that going on, and now we found out that Rowan was the one that attacked Roman Reigns. Rowan turned on Daniel Bryan, and now he will be facing Roman at Clash of Champions. So it will be Roman Reigns versus Eric Rowan. It's not Rowan anymore. It's Eric Rowan. They put his first name back on there, which is a rarity to some superstars. Now I'm just waiting for them to take, Baron off of Corbin or Cedric off of Alexander. Who they're going to buy with that bug next. But now there's a whole mystery as they don't even know if it's going to be Reigns versus Rowan. There's mystery backstage. Some people backstage don't even know what's going on with that storyline. I guess Vince is undecided. Sometimes that can make for compelling television, but I think right now it's just leaving everybody confused and is going to give them limited time to actually put a game plan together as to where this storyline is going to go. So we have one more thing to talk about, but this will be something that I can really delve into, and that is the return of the WWE Draft. For the last 6 months or so, we've been dealing with this stupid, to quote Randy Orton, stupid wild card rule. This rule where we had superstars, we had Raw superstars, we had SmackDown superstars, but they were allowed on the other show. Like 3 or 4 a week could be on the other show. Which, it was so idiotic. What's the point of having separate rosters? If you're going to have, your big stars from one show on the other every single week. We had Kofi on Raw every single week. We had Reigns on Raw every single week. We had Elias on, or not Elias, but Drew on SmackDown every week. We saw Raw superstars on SmackDown every week. SmackDown on Raw. The brand split was purely cosmetic. It made no difference because everybody was on every show. But now, with Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff at the helm for Raw and SmackDown, it seems that they're finally going into the direction of having, this is the Raw roster, this is the SmackDown roster, this is how it's going to be. Raw will not invade SmackDown, SmackDown will not invade Raw, except maybe during Survivor Series. But there's also talk of NXT being involved in this draft, which is a scary situation to say the least. Because we know just how much NXT puts into their superstars and how much leniency they give them. And it's a great, edgy product that we get to see every week. Putting some of those superstars on Raw and SmackDown in like a clump makes it not feel special. And bringing some of those superstars back to NXT, while it is a great idea, while some superstars need it, I don't think it's the best idea to say, oh, it's just a draft though. It's not saying, we think you'd fit better here. It's saying, you know what? Put them in NXT. We need to balance out the roster. And that's where I think it's the downside to it. But I think there's more good that can come from this than bad. Because with a talent pool as deep as WWE's right now, you've got like 200 active wrestlers on your payroll. And that's not including, the developing superstars. That's like the people on television. Raw, SmackDown, NXT 205, NXT UK. You got all those superstars. And the 3 major ones, as deep as those rosters are, you cannot have your top stars going to other shows. That's taking time from other superstars that can be working their way up the ladder. And when you have that solidarity of superstars are getting their opportunities, then you kind of have a right to say, okay, he's going to make it, he's not going to make it. You have a right to say that. But when it comes to the WWE draft, you gotta set it to where it's solid. Where the Raw superstars stay on Raw, SmackDown stays on SmackDown, and NXT stays on NXT. So, with the draft coming up, it is scheduled, I believe, to be the October 10th edition of SmackDown, which is their second one on Fox, it'll be Friday Night SmackDown again. And then the next Monday on Raw will be the second half of the draft. So it's going to be interesting to see, what moves they make and how solid this draft is going to be. But it needs to be solid if you want this to really, really work. So, to prepare for the draft, I want to name some superstars that I feel should move brands in an effort to escalate their star power or exposure. Like these superstars would work better on Raw. These superstars would work better on SmackDown. These superstars would work better in NXT. Now, Now names I'm going to start with. I am going to start with. Oh, goodness gracious. I am going to start with Apollo Crews, and he should go to NXT. I think he had one match in NXT, but I don't know if he's on there regularly. And this is a guy, he was one of those hot commodities before it became a bad habit to sign just any superstar that was starting to gain some momentum. He's one of those that I think WWE legitimately had a plan for, and for some reason it just fell through. But I feel doing that would revitalize Apollo Crews in WWE and give him a second chance at Stardom, to make it, as a big spot on any roster. He had a couple good matches on SmackDown, but he hasn't really done anything since. We have also people that I want to see move up. I think it's time to move the Undisputed Era up. Well, not up, but it's time to put them on Raw or SmackDown. And I think they would do better on SmackDown than Raw. That's just an opinion from me. You need a bump in the SmackDown Tag Team division. You have the New Day, and you have Heavy Machinery, I guess. You don't really have much else. So I'm not sure where else they would go. Adam Cole would be a great major star on there. Roderick Strong is a good support on there. Fish and O'Reilly, obviously, the tag team that SmackDown needs right now. And the big move that I would make, I would put Roman Reigns back on Raw. And the reason for that, Roman Reigns just fits there. You have this feeling. These superstars are Raw superstars. They belong on this brand because they just fit the Raw mold. There's a Raw style and there's a SmackDown style. I don't know if anyone's noticed it, but it seems like there is Raw has a way of doing things, SmackDown has a way of doing things. And I think for these superstars that we see on the independent circuit, we see come up in NXT and make it on the main roster, I think that SmackDown is the home for them, while the homebrew talent, those that, audition for NXT, sign up, and, work their way through the WWE system, should go on Raw. It's just the mold they better fit. And I believe the best move that we can make for WWE is for Roman Reigns to go back to Raw. Roman to go back to the flagship show. You can put Seth on SmackDown if you want to. I would not mind that at all. But that's where I am on the situation. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of Let's Talk Wrestling. Be sure to go to audibletrial.com/Let's Talk Wrestling to get your free trial of Audible, the great audiobook service for 30 days. Get a free audiobook download. Until then, be well, stay safe. This has been Let's Talk Wrestling.